You are now listening to the Youth Fusion Radio Hour.
Hi guys, welcome to Youth Fusion Radio Hours. Bonjour tout le monde, moi c'est Marie. I was working in Tustuyak, sorry. I was going to French. I was working in Tustuyak in Waskaganish before. Some of you may remember me. I'm from France, so pardon my very weird accent. I want to start with a little game about me. I don't know if you ever played True, Still a Lie. And I can give the answers to you in the next podcast, but in the meanwhile, just try guessing. So here we are. I nap almost every day. I have visited 20 foreign countries, and I have over 100 selfies on my phone, but I never post them on social media.
That's the lie.
Okay,
I agree.
Right through me. It's actually 200 selfies of myself, and I do post them on social media all the time. So there are three things that I really like in life, and they are a good cup of tea, and a good book, and a cat. And I feel like quarantine gave me the opportunity to indulge in these three things, so somehow it makes the whole thing a little bit better. And also, for those who work with me in the past 2 years, you know, I have a sweet tooth. Is that a teeth or a tooth? Because I feel like at this point, I'm 30 years old, I have sweet tooth. I've only one sweet teeth. And I'll share some baking tips during the podcast.
So what's up, guys? I think I'm the next one to present myself. So I'm Gaby. I've been working in Miss Disney as a project coordinator in leadership and well-being, and we were doing some radio workshop. But I'm from the suburb of Montreal, so the accent, a lot of people ask me, but it's from the different places I've lived in. So it might be a bit of a mix depending on what words I'm using. So what do you need to know about me? Well, I think the first thing is I'm a slight addict to learning. Like, it's a problem. Like, I love learning, and learning about absolutely everything. As long as it's useful, I'm in it. And when it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not in it. But this led me to be on the move a lot because I think when you travel, you're just constantly learning. So when I turned 18 years old, I did not need my parents' approval anymore to quit the country. So I left to work abroad. I wanted to discover places and cultures and history and languages, like just everything good that the world has to offer. Going out of my comfort zone is my to-go-to. So I try to push my limit, challenge myself, and lots of energy, and can make people feel I'm a way too intense. Sorry, but not sorry. So I'm going to be your nerdy host for this show, telling you all the good intellectual things to know. And if you had any questions or stuff you want us to talk about, well, don't hesitate to let us know. Leave a comment. We want this to be your show.
All right, cool. Thanks. So I guess it's my turn to present. So I'm Brittany. I was the Youth Fusion coordinator in Nemiska in the Cree Nation. I was born and raised on the East Coast, way over in Nova Scotia, eh? We have a lot of fishermen over here.
Yeah, and they smell good too.
I mean, yeah, fish smells awful, super awful. But lobster's really big and super, super cheap over here.
Oh, so jealous.
If you get it in season, you can buy one for like $10. Anyways, that's just cool, Nova Scotia. Some random fun things to know about me is one of my biggest pet peeves is when people park on both sides of the road and there's not enough space for you to pull your car through, and you're just sat there like, what are you doing? That's definitely my biggest pet peeve. I have a really bad habit of losing everything and then eventually finding it later on. Sometimes I don't, which makes me really sad, but I have faith that things wander back to me. I also really love to travel. I've been to over 24 countries, and before working with Youth Fusion, I was actually living in Mexico, where I was learning to speak Spanish, and it's really, really warm. Like Marie, I also have a huge sweet tooth, and during this time, I've been going on a baking frenzy. I guess to continue Marie's game of two truths and a lie, make sure you tune in next week because we'll tell you what the lie was. So last Christmas, my sister brought home a python snake. I once convinced a group of people that lake sharks existed. And they used to be in the military, and I'm highly skilled at hand-to-hand combat. So I hope you can guess which one's a lie. And next up is our next host.
Hola! Dzień dobry, that's Polish. And bonjour, I know Ojibwe, which all mean hello. My name is Natalie. I'm the environmental design project coordinator. Well, I was, I guess, who worked in Mississauga Anishinaabe, also known as Pic-Mobert First Nation. I, like you guys may not or did not know where it was, so I will tell you. So it is a small little reserve between Sault Ste. Marie and Thunder Bay, literally 4 hours away from each. And it lies on a White Lake, a beautiful big lake. So I was actually born and raised in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, which is where I currently am as we record this remotely. It is the home to the tech hub of Canada, Waterloo. It's growing, so is Kitchener with all their tech businesses. It's also home to our longest-serving Prime Minister, William Lyon Mackenzie King, who those of you didn't know, he served 3 times in office. He's also one crazy dude if you ever learn about him. And we also have the largest Oktoberfest outside of Bavaria, so really cool. Whoever comes around here in October, be sure to check out Oktoberfest. Anyways.
Super weird.
Yeah, it's because Kitchener used to be called Berlin before World War I. And then after World War I, and of course history, they changed the name to Kitchener, which was like a general or something like that in the war. So they just didn't, there used to be a lot of German people in Kitchener. Anyways, yeah, so a little fact there. So some things actually about myself though, as in interviews when they ask me to talk about myself, I always like to state that I'm a first generation Canadian. Both my parents were actually born and raised in Poland and immigrated over here at like my age, so in their 20s. As well as because of that, I was raised rather in a very, very Polish manner, including the way I had to study to the things I ate. I was fed meat and potatoes my whole life. Last but not least, I love to dance. I love to read books that are made into movies. Right now I'm reading Eat, Pray, Love. It's really cute. And I love pizza so much. Like Gaby loves to learn things. I love pizza. Something I could eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then as we're talking about food, we're gonna start our topic today.
Oh, by the way, did we tell you that you're listening to the Youth Fusion Radio Hour? If so, now you know.
Hey, all right, guys. So before we get on to our big baking topic of the day, we're just going to give a little rundown about like what our podcast is and what we hope it is in the future. And yeah, so basically every week we're going to be releasing a podcast. So you guys get to hear us and our beautiful voices every week if you tune in. And we'll be talking about some pretty relevant stuff that's important to us, like well-being, healthy lifestyle, some leadership. We'll also be throwing in some really cool topics, like today's episode, we'll be discussing our baking and everything funny that can happen with baking and baking fails and the Nailed It Netflix series.
Yeah, in the future, we also just want to showcase your talents, like your school or your community and anything that you guys are doing. So if you want to be part of this show, you just have to comment below. You can get involved through your coordinator, with your group of friends, or just by yourself. It seems quite intimidating at first, but it's really not as bad as it seems, believe me, because we're all doing this podcast for the first time. I don't think anyone here has done a podcast before. So we really need just your help to improve the content and the format of the episode. So share your ideas, tell us what you think, and we really want you to be part of the project. So you might have guessed today what we're going to talk about is going to be related to baking. So more specifically, we're going to talk about Nailed It. It's a show on Netflix which showcases amateur bakers trying to replicate very elaborated cakes. So we all love cakes, right? But I don't know if you tried some recipes at home, but it does not always work out. So you might wonder the relationship between Nailed It and the purpose of this podcast. Well, there's nothing better for our health than combining home cooking with good laugh. And we all fail in the kitchen, and better laughing about it than crying over it, because laughing does miracle for our well-being. So did you know that laughter decreases stress hormones and increases immune cells and infection-fighting antibodies, thus improving your resistance to disease? It sounds all very complicated, but it just means that your body fights disease better when you laugh, or when laughter is part of your life. Laughing is just amazing for the body. It relaxes it, and it releases this endorphins or endorphins. I'm not too sure in English how it says, but it's like 100% natural body-made chemicals that just make you feel good. Like, it protects your heart, it burns calories, and some studies even show that it helps people to live longer. So laughing is to do every day. But the benefits are just like for your body, it's also incredible for your mind. Laughing gives joy and energy by relieving stress, tension, and anxiety. It makes you more resilient to life changes. A good laugh also tends to be just very good to strengthen the relationship, romantic or not. So it's hard to remain angry at someone after having a good laugh. I don't know if you ever tried or had a fight with someone and then, I don't know, something happened and it's just funny and you start laughing, and then afterwards you try to go back to your conversation and it's just like, oh, that doesn't work.
That's very true.
Yeah, my brother.
It happened with some of my partners, and that's just the best way of like solving a conflict. So yeah, when you laugh, you tend to attract more people, and it enhances like teamwork and group bonding. So now you might ask, like, okay, yeah, it's great. Like, I love laughing, but I don't laugh in command. So first step, everyone, smile. And you can even start with smile, like faking a smile, because apparently it has the same effects in the body, and it's just end up being natural. So, and then, I mean, people are good with it, but read, listen, and watch funny things or funny people. Like, I mean, if you laugh at people, just don't show it. But so yeah, for me tonight, I decided to watch some comedy show to just put that into practice and have a good laugh. So what about you guys? Like, what are the funny things you're doing, or like the things you're watching, and like, what is your number one to go to for laughing? I mean, you guys, I'm talking to the other host, but I'm also talking to you at home, so you can tell us in the comments.
I mean, for me, for laughing, I really watch Trevor Noah on The Daily Show. I think he's so funny.
Love him.
I think he's hilarious. But yeah, I definitely watch him, or just like funny YouTube videos. So I guess that's like
Yes.
funny YouTube videos.
Am I a
Yeah.
child if I say that I love cat fails? That's like my laugh. Or just like animal fails in general, or animals farting. Okay, now I'm a child. This is what makes me laugh. This is my endorphins for the day. Unrelated to farts. Go back on the baking.
Yeah.
So if you guys ever participated in Youth Fusion activities, you were probably lucky enough to have baked or cooked with us at least once, maybe one time, and then you just ran off our activities. I don't know. And sometimes it was great, most of the time, hopefully. And well, sometimes it didn't work out because we either forgot like the baking soda or the baking powder, or just like missed a step because we were having so much fun. Or sometimes those just fail because I wouldn't wait long enough before unmolding the cake, because I get so excited about cakes and then they would just end up being completely destroyed. It happens to everyone to make these big fails in the kitchen, I think. In baking, it's super important to be precise because you can mess the whole thing like really easily. For example, last year in Waskaganish, I don't know if there are some cool kids from Wask here listening, but I don't know if you remember the time I tried to make cupcakes for the first time. So when you make cupcakes, you're supposed to be like gently folding, like so everything is very light and fluffy, gently folding, and nobody got time for that, sorry. So anyway, all my cupcakes, they ended up being very flat and hard as a rock. Or there was this one time, I don't know if you guys remember, but we tried to make cheesecake, also my first time. And the topping would just like, it would just stay on the cake. It would just like leak out of the mold. Like it was just like go everywhere. Well, that was a catastrophe, especially we were supposed to take pictures that day. Still have the pictures, but I'm not going to share them with anybody. But we had some good time. And I learned something, I think, from these days, that sometimes it's okay to get store-bought food instead of trying to make from scratch. And I think that's why I love the show Nailed It, because like these people, they're just like sucky bakers and they just make me feel good about my baking. Have you guys watched the show?
That's definitely how I feel.
Yeah. They make you feel better, eh? So
Yeah.
I feel like I can't be as bad as they are. But yeah, no, I've literally watched every single episode of Nailed It. It's like pretty much an obsession at this time. Like I count down the days when I know a season's gonna come out. And like Gabby said, like it's such a show that like I don't know, even though it's sometimes like too cheesy, it's still so funny. And it's just a treat to watch, unlike the things they actually make. Like I wouldn't want to put any of that stuff in my mouth. But for you guys who don't know, it is an American show. They have 4 seasons and a Christmas season, so 5 seasons in total. And they also, like the show itself has spanned a global market. So they have recorded the show in Mexico, France, Spain, and Germany. Maybe Marie could talk about the French version later on. But yeah, they're all so good. And if you guys are wondering, shoot, like I don't speak any Spanish or German, Netflix is awesome, and they like record voices on top of them speaking in their native language, so you just hear like English voices. But the show, I don't know, I find like it just shows how human we all are. Like no one's perfect. Like some of the contestants, like it's not like they're just, you know, goofy people. There's some like scientists on the show, teachers, there's like real chefs on the show, and like they all just, you know, fail it. Like it's unbelievable, right? So you don't have to be a genius to be good at baking. But also being a genius doesn't make you good at baking. But yeah, so just like in terms of baking, like it's really precise, right? So going back to the whole chef guy, he was mentioning the difference between if you're a chef, like you could like add a little bit spice here, there, and it'll still taste good. But in baking, if you like literally miss something, like you could ruin the whole thing, right? So Marie mentioned how she didn't give her cupcakes fluff, right? So that means, you know, they weren't really any good. One time I was baking at home and I put double the amount of butter into my cookies, and it tasted freaking gross. Like they just tasted like butter, like you're eating like crumbly butter. And no one in my family ate that, so I was like forcing myself to eat stuff, because again, as Polish people, we hate to throw out food. So like I literally ate like 24 Spritz cookies that just were like plain butter or pure butter. But anyway, so yeah, we all make mistakes. But it's actually kind of cool because the show also, like whenever they make mistakes, like they'll put little blurbs, or like the one host will talk about how you could fix your mistakes / correct them. So it's pretty cool. Like it's like a funny show, but also super informative.
Yeah, and I need this advice. Like I really got into learning how to cook last year, and actually it's this year that I did my very first cake that was not just already prepared package to mix with water, because I grew up in a family where cooking was not like actually a big thing, and when I was baking, it was just like the pre-made packages. And when I did my first case, the first thing I noticed is like the amount of sugar we put in these things, and I never really was aware of how much sugar I was putting when I was taking all these sweets, because you know it tastes good, so I loved it. For the one who knows me, like I just love sweets. I love dessert. I can't end a meal without a dessert. But life ended up like I had an accident, and I had to kind of just pay a bit more attention to my health. So I started to be into nutrition and sports, and you know, nutrition can seem so complicated when you look at the nutrition value and already made food, like just behind it. But it's actually quite easy and simple when you just cook from scratch. So, you know, the food you're putting into it, and you don't have to wonder with these names of the name. Like, you know, in the ingredients list, you always have names that you just can't pronounce. So anyway, I was like, yeah, let's do all the dessert and sweets at home. Like, there's nothing wrong about sweets. It's just a question of moderation. And well, let's say it's not my biggest quality. So cooking it myself definitely helped me though to like be a bit more moderate about sweets and dessert, and or to find a way of like making them so I could indulge in them without guilt. So yes, I my love for it made me search for like healthy, yummy alternative that were just as good, but good for my body also. And for this, is actually so useful to know the principle of cooking and some of its techniques. So I do this with like all recipe. Like I feel for a cheesecake, I'll make my cheesecake, but I'll simply swap some ingredients so that
Like
it's
what?
satisfied. What?
Like what would you swap?
Well, for the cheesecake,
Yeah.
well, for the cheesecake, I do a non-bake version so that it makes things easier. But
Yeah.
it's like you can use like yogurt, cashew, and tofu as like I usually mix the three of them. Yeah, it's like other things that I've learned to do is like my homemade chocolate, and it's like it's good, but it's also bad because now I'm doing chocolate every day for myself. But yeah.
There's nothing bad about that. I think it's great.
It's like healthy version that I do, so no guilt.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Chocolate day keeps the doctor away.
like after my meal all the time. Anyway, I did that with my youth and necessity, so that's where I've learned. But anyway, coming back to baking, a baking fail that I did was like I wanted to do muffin. Like I was with my students and I wanted to do like banana muffins, and there was no ripped banana, so I just took like unripped banana, but it tasted awful. Like it was just salty, almost like a bread. It's like really important to have ripped banana for sugar.
Yeah.
Oh, you would like use like the green
Some nice
banana?
green banana.
Ah! I can taste it.
There's a saying with fruit, right? The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice.
Yeah.
I think that applies to bananas. Love the skin when it's dark.
Yeah, I've learned that it was important. Yeah, so well, anyway, coming back to baking. So cooking and baking, like I've talked about cooking, but baking is a total different thing. The first is really more like fluid. You can play with recipe and things as you're adding your ingredients, but baking is so much more of a precise science. So it is harder to change a recipe if you don't know the science behind it. So when you start, you're always better off following the recipe. So here's a few tips to not mess up your recipe, even though you think you follow it correctly. You need to just read all the steps. Also, if a recipe asks you like room temperature, this is actually like your ingredients needs to be room temperature. It will actually change the chemical reactions of what you bake. So, for example, if your butter is soft or it's hard or it's melted, like it's totally changing the texture of what you're baking. So, by the way, talking about butter, use unsalted butter, as you then have a full control over the amount of salt you put. So you don't want your bakery like that. You want sweet, you don't want it to taste salty. Yeah. So you read through your step, you gather all your ingredients, you gather your ingredients in advance if you need to be room temperature, so at least an hour. Check expiry dates because baking soda, baking powder, yeast usually have a very short shelf life, very short amount of time, and it's like not good afterwards. And which makes that even though you're gonna follow all the recipe perfectly and the quantity perfectly, it still might not work. That happens with a couple of bread that I tried to make at home, and I was just like, why is that rising? And then I bought new yeast, and I was like,
Oh, that's good.
so
Yeah, I definitely use a
Expired.
baking soda way past the
Yeah,
expiry
all the
date.
time.
Yeah. Like, it's not like you're gonna use it in the 30 days of opening it. Like,
yeah, better buy in small
yeah,
quantity.
yeah.
Yeah, like the other very important thing that I think most of us do is like you kind of measure but don't really pay attention. You're like, oh, that's more or less a cup, or that's more or less a teaspoon. And in baking, actually, like it's actually needs to be super precise. So be precise on your measurement. And if you have like this weight, it's even better because you can have 1 cup of flour, but if you compress your cup, you can end up having like 1.5 cup in your 1 cup. So with weight, it's like much more precise. So if you really don't want to mess it up, what are the other like important things? Like it's really just once you put it in the oven, you don't open the oven. So temperature in baking is just so important.
That is
If you
the harder thing. I just love the smell of stuff baking, but I know not to put too
Okay,
open.
I'm pretty sure you could smell it without opening the oven.
No.
Yeah, I know it's difficult. I always want to check too, but it's like this change in temperature is gonna make your cake just like boom, flop. If you actually have the thermometers, like you can track the temperature, because I know sometimes the temperature on the oven is not actually exact, and it's gonna say it's 350, but it's not. But that's a luxury, so it's not compulsory. Enough tips for me for today, because if you're like me, not very careful and more the type of go with the flow type of person, yeah, you need to start little at a time. So a few tips: room temperature, expiry date, temperature of the oven, weighting your ingredients. That should be it. So anyway, like don't be ashamed of like just trying and failing it. I mean, it provides a lot of good occasions to laugh. And I think Brittany has a lot of anecdotes for us about this.
Oh yeah, I am and was and probably will always be a mess in the kitchen. It just happens. And like I'm trying, like I'm going on baking sprees in these days of quarantine. And like I think I could be a contestant on Nailed It. I think I would win. Like I think I would walk in and win the $10,000. But yeah, like even today, I tried to make a bread, and my mom officially kicked me out of the kitchen and told me I can't bake anymore.
What?
But more so because I was really upset. But more so because I spilled butter. Like I tried, like when you have to like melt the butter and like I put it in the microwave, and then I tried to get it out, and it just like spilled on top of me, and then on the
Did you burn?
No, it didn't burn. Like it wasn't like hot. It was just like melted butter, and it just got all over my clothes, and then all over the counter. And then my mom was like I went and cleaned up my mess, which was on my clothes, and like changed, and it came back, and my mom was like, what are you doing? And that was today. But I mean the bread works. Like it doesn't look like a bread, but it tastes fine. It doesn't look like bread,
What
but
does it look like?
It like I don't know, like the yeast. So like I made this like keto bread kind of thing. So like the yeast like rose and then it fell, and so it's like super like small.
Oh.
And it just doesn't look like bread, but it tastes good. Like my mom says she liked it.
Mhm.
Oh, at
I'm
least it
surprised
proves you're baking for the taste.
She still said I wasn't allowed back in the kitchen. So we'll see. I plan on trying cinnamon rolls next.
Mm.
But yeah, like it's just yeah, I'm trying. I think one of my worst stories was when I tried to make a birthday cake for an old boyfriend of mine. and it was supposed to be a carrot cake, but it was awful. Like I tried to I didn't know you were supposed to like shred the carrots, so I like grated them instead. And I was in Germany, and they didn't use like cups and measure like the kind of measurements that we use here. So I tried to like convert everything, so I guesstimated all of the ingredients, and I didn't have like all of the ingredients, so I like swapped different stuff for different stuff. Like I think I didn't have like vegetable oil, but there was pumpkin oil, so I was like, okay, like I'll use pumpkin oil.
Didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, it was so bad. Like when it came out of the oven, it was like this orange brick. Like it was awful. And I made like the frosting and everything, and like put it on and like gave it to him, and he ate it, and then was like, we have to throw this out.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think that was when my war with carrot cake started. I think like because like carrot cake's a big thing in my family. Like everybody eats carrot cake, they love it. And like my grandmother makes the best carrot cake, but I can remember a time where she asked me to go get it, and I like got the cake and was walking upstairs with it and just like fell, and the cake just went flying, and my grandmother never let me live the moment down. And that was those are my carrot cake wars.
No, but yeah, like clearly the four of us have all failed at baking at one time or another. But like now we're like reminiscing on the times, which is super awesome. Baking is a really joyful activity that we all do. And that's why I think Nailed It is such an attractive show to watch, and why they have probably such a large following. And the show not only is funny, has great memories that we kind of connect to when we watch it, but also it's super heartwarming. Like I'm not sure if you guys watched this episode, but there's a comedian. So this is like the one time they had a celebrity as a contestant, comedian Paul Scheer. So I'm gonna spoil the ending of the episode, audience. So sorry about that, but it makes my point of it being heartwarming. So he actually like came onto the show. He was being super happy, super positive. Like he wasn't too great, but he was kind of better than the other contestants, and he did end up winning the show. But instead of keeping the $10,000 for himself, he actually split it between the two other contestants, which was super nice.
Oh,
Because
wow.
like at least it wasn't like he is already obviously wealthy enough that he doesn't need the $10,000. I'm assuming. So it's really sweet that he actually gave it to the other people. And yeah, just like when you watch the show, it's cute because you give some backstory about the contestants. Some of them are on the show because they want to like improve their cooking for their grandkids or for their partner, or they're trying to like win the money so they could like help fund their wedding or like a trip to Disneyland for their kids. Yeah, so it's like just overall, like there's so much more to the show than just the baking fails, which I think is really cute.
I really like the hosts. I think the hosts are just so funny.
Oh, they're always so extra. Like if you watch any of the ones from the different countries too, like they're all so extra, which is so awesome. Wes? Like
My favorite season is the French season. And it's not called Nailed It because French people will be like, Nailed it? It's actually called C'est pas du gâteau. So meaning that's not cake, which is an expression, funny story. Then when you say something is really hard, you're like, oh my God, like, have you seen Miss like Murray's homework? Yeah, it's not cake. That's how you use it. So it's like when something is really hard, you say C'est pas du gâteau. Anyway, I love the show because like I love Nailed It, and I love the French version of it because it's just like it stars like very like down to earth people, like you said, guys. Like it's people that like are learning to cook for their significant others, or they're just like really bad at it, and they want to show their family they can do something. I think that's always funny. They always have very little chance to accomplish anything. And I think that's my favorite part. It's like, how do you even do that cake in 45 minutes? Like, it's so perfect. Like, it probably took us 3 to 4 hours to make, like, in a like before they took the pictures and they showed it on the show. So like 45 minutes, like, who are you kidding? And I think also, like you said, also, like, the judges are very courageous. I wouldn't try it, like, most of the things that come out of the show. So, like, I remember that lady, she just dropped the waffle on the floor and then just put them back and then just made the cake out of the waffles. And I was like, that the judges just tried it. I was like, that's brave.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I think I have to put my 2 cents on it. Like full disclosure, I wouldn't do it at home. There's so much sugar in this recipe. Like, every time I watch it, I'm just like, I need a big glass of water, like, all this icing, all this stuff. Like, there's a lot of recipes that don't involve, like, all this icing. And like follow Gabrielle. She had good, like, not unbaked cheesecakes options with tofu and stuff like that. I like trying to make stuff at home. Recently, I've been into making bread, especially because when I moved to Suyak, I realized that sometimes there was no more bread in the shelves. So I needed to fend for myself. And what's a French person without the baguette, right? So
Wait, in all seriousness, do you know how to bake a baguette? Because share that with us, please.
I actually haven't made, like, I just make a regular loaf, but I'm pretty sure, like, if I like shape it, I can
Then it's a baguette. Because I'm French, it's a baguette.
And it's like a no knead, like, I just Google, like, no knead bread, and it's just like basically it does the whole thing. Like, you just put all the ingredients and just like leave it, like, for 12 hours, and then you're good to go. You just, like, fold it twice and put it in the oven and bake it, and this is done. Like, it's really easy. I even shared the recipe with my mom, because in France right now, like, it's really hard to get some stuff like bread, eggs. I think what I'm gonna miss the most is bannock with chocolate chips. I don't know if you guys had that. That's, like, the best thing.
Bannock with wieners.
I love the one with the resin in it, like dried.
You're so healthy, Gabby. We can't follow.
I know. Why are you putting raisins in it?
No, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I wasn't listening. Whoa.
No, there was raisins in the ones that I had too. Like, when we had, like, big gatherings, they would make, like, bannock donuts and put raisins on them.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry now.
Bannock donuts, cake to cake, the nailed it cake. But I've also had bannock pizza, which was really interesting. I liked it too.
Yeah, we had one.
Pizza is also great as well. I don't know, with Nailed It, I just think it's just such an awesome show. I was, like, rewatching it a little bit today to, like, catch up for the podcast, and I watched this really awesome Marvel episode because I'm a super big superhero nerd, and I just like how themed it was. And spoiler alert, there's just, like, this one dude, and he just didn't know what he was doing, and his cupcakes were not cooked, so he used an apple and put frosting on the apple, and then stuck these, like, cookie blobs, and also, like, somehow incorporated trash, but, like, he was supposed to use, like, I don't know, like, paper, like, trace, I don't know. He just gave it all
edible
to
paper?
the judges.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, and it was hilarious because the judges are like, "Are we gonna eat trash now?" And I give so much credit to the one judge that, like, picked up the frosted apple and tried it and was like, "Meh, shouldn't have done that." And put it back.
Yeah, I think this show is, like, really what the true meaning of fun is like not taking stuff seriously. I don't know if you guys agree.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
It's like trying your hardest, but being okay if it doesn't turn out.
Laughing
And
at
I
oneself, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's like, okay, it's literally like doing an exam that you've never studied for. Like, that's what I feel like you're putting people into something like that. Like,
yeah.
You're good at
But I also think it's just, like, a great metaphor for life to just, like, try if you don't succeed, and then just, like, try again, because you can only get better with, like, baking.
Yeah.
hopefully.
very good.
That was so deep, Brittany.
Takeaway.
Yeah, I know. Way to end on a really awesome note.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Full disclosure, I think we agreed on the fact that it's the absolute first time that we try to do a podcast. Maybe you could tell. Hopefully not. So we hope you had fun, because we did. That was not like fake pre-recorded laughter. I actually cried in my left eye.
Ha ha ha.
So keep tuned for the next episode of Youth Fusion Radio Hour. We won't tell you what it is about yet, because we haven't decided, to be honest. But we are very much into this. So have a great day. Have a great week. Be grateful for all the things you have. And remember to say I love you to someone. And I love you guys. And thank you for being here.
Love you guys. See you next week.
I love you guys too.
Bye.
Also, like, if you have any suggestions about what you want to hear next, like, feel free to reach out to us. This is Brittany, Gaby, Natalie, and Marie. So with you, Susan. And yeah, like, thanks for everybody for tuning in.